Right, I'm absolutely fascinated to see how this team works because there are so many interchangeable parts. And it's why, in a way, I'm leaning into the Rodrygo transfer, even though I'm not 100% sure that it's like the final solution for Liverpool. And actually, if we're being honest, this analysis might show you in your own mind why he is or isn't for Liverpool. And I kind of want to go through it because there's a lot of money to spend on a player. And, as much as there are pluses and minuses to, taking it off another rival, similar to what we did with Wirtz, where it was like, well, he could have gone to City, could have gone to us, could have gone to Bayern, could have gone to us, and ultimately he chose us. How we justify the expenditure. And when I'm talking about this expenditure, I'm talking about on the field. Now, just one thing to flag before this is not about Liverpool's depth. That will be a whole other video. Yes, I've left Diogo Jota there on the Liverpool bench because, frankly, I'm just not ready to move him off that bench. And, in many small ways, I think just remembering him is good. But what we're going to focus on is this guy and his relationships with all the other people around him while he's out on the field. And the first thing I want to call out is, yeah, that's a weird place to start him. It's not an unusual play. I mean, it's unusual in the sense that he's not a striker. And actually, if you look at his heat map, then really we're looking at a guy who, he hasn't played much in the Club World Cup. Really we're looking at this? We're looking at that, guys. We're looking at a guy who's incredibly touchline huggy over here. Takes a lot of touches in these areas because that's where he's finishing a lot of his goals, and part of his job is to work his way into the box. Obviously takes a lot of corners, which might actually be a huge benefit for us. I think we already have a lot of good corner takers, though I got to admit that is an outside piece of brilliance for him. And then there's obviously this very prominent area here. All of that is to say, yes, this heat map does not match to this, but his end product, hopefully within this Liverpool team, would match to that. So I'm going to take us through a few of those shapes, how those shapes would work, how Liverpool would make that work, and why I'm kind of a bit obsessed with not playing a striker in this side. And that's why Rodrygo is a fascinating multiplier within the team. By the way, there are extensive benches on either side here. These are the guys that I would have considered to be Liverpool starters. I've even put Luis Diaz as a kind of a question mark there, although in a second I will show you why, if we had to switch out Diaz for Rodrygo and we switch out Wirtz for Gakpo, then actually what we have here is pretty much last season's idea towards the end of the season where we were, but change Frimpong for Trent and change Kerkez for Robertson. This is pretty much last season's end formation. Maybe he's a little bit further forward, maybe he's a little bit further forward. But actually, what was interesting and what I got from Adam Cleary's video recently speaking about, I think it was Florian Wirtz and a couple of other Liverpool combos, was that really the idea when we're laying out these formations is where do the players start and where do they end? And that's why the heat map is so interesting for Rodrygo. Just go with me here. So with Diaz leaving the side, right? These are the people he has the closest relationship with on the field, but you could also argue there is like a relationship over here with like a Kerkez side of things. Rodrygo would be coming in as that body on the field, or would he? Would Rodrygo actually be coming in and replacing or complementing what Cody Gakpo does? And here's why. Diaz would often drop deep and go kind of into this sort of area, and Gakpo will go very wide and then work his way into this area, kind of like a striker type, finishing a lot of his moves around here. With Diaz going a little bit wider, maybe sometimes playing a bit of a decoy run, or sometimes going inside, giving Gakpo that space to run in behind the defenders who ultimately rush out here. Can I put a player? Yeah, I'm just going to pop a couple of players there. They'll be called 1 and 2, but don't worry about that. So basically, you've got your centre-backs and you have these half spaces here and then the hot zone, this red area where Slot just loves to play his football. I'm going to put another away player down because Diaz would often run into traffic about there, right? Then what he's done is he's created space for Gakpo to even run in there, or he's created his own space to shoot and ultimately the ball goes from there to there or there out wide, right? Those all seem like fairly simple shapes and quite obvious things to point out. But when we're laying it out and talking about Diaz as a false 9, which kind of alludes to what it was that he did, he was false and he was a 9, what we're seeing is very different to what Bobby Firmino used to do, I guess. And I think that's kind of fascinating. If you look at where Gakpo ended up, was much more there, and where Diaz ended up was much more there. And suddenly, if you now interchange these guys, like Gakpo for Wirtz and Rodrygo for Diaz, we're seeing that actually Wirtz would end up much more there, and Rodrygo would end up much more kind of there or there, and then Wirtz through the middle, Salah. And what you're suddenly looking at is, again, a lot of players very quickly entering that hot zone. Now, I'm going to get rid of these guys, I don't need them right now, and I do need that hot zone. Yeah, I think that hot zone is going to stay. Rodrygo would come in, and essentially there are a few different ways that we could play him. First of all, yeah, you could play him through the middle, but as this has shown you, that's not where he starts his football, so you're not playing him as that player to like play off. Yes, he's a great combination player, and that is one of his real strengths. Like even if you go on, here you go, passing, positioning, playmaking. And that's kind of where it begins to fall down. Because guess who else is good at passing, positioning, playmaking? Florian Wirtz, Mo Salah, Szoboszlai, McAllister. There are a bunch, and I mean a bunch of good playmakers, players to play off here, players who, when we're in control of the ball, could move around. And you can take this as double-sided. First of all, yeah, Rodrygo would be great to switch with Wirtz. Rodrygo goes outside, Wirtz goes inside, Salah suddenly makes a little run in here. We're looking at like Salah running in there, Wirtz playing the ball through the middle, or Rodrygo playing it into that back post, or vice versa, and actually Rodrygo running into that back post, Salah bringing the ball in here, and suddenly you got a ball, don't know why I did that, suddenly you've got a ball going across the box and Rodrygo's there to finish at the back post. Again, all of this very much playing chess or checkers. It's pretty simple stuff. But the adaptability of Rodrygo and the excitement of that adaptability, meaning he's not a real striker, but meaning that Florian Wirtz could bring in someone like him if you were to play him through the middle, especially considering that Wirtz, I mean, he's played with some prolific players, don't get me wrong, he's played for Germany, he's played for all these kind of guys. He's never really played off a prolific striker for a season. He's played off a very good striker, but he's never played off a prolific striker. And Rodrygo would not be that prolific striker in the same way as there are plenty of other people who are not prolific strikers that I'm sure a lot of people have played off and had very beneficial relationships with. So actually what you get is Rodrygo either through the middle, or realistically, Rodrygo out wide, Wirtz through the middle, Szoboszlai. I actually think Szoboszlai is going to play a little bit of a deeper role this season due to his energy and his everything else. And actually, you have, similar to the Feyenoord team, McAllister and Szoboszlai kind of interchanging. So sometimes McAllister's deep, sometimes Szoboszlai is deep. And that will be dependent very much on the build-up play at the back here between Van Dijk and centre-backs, or I've not put Konate there because we don't know about the future of him right now, but judge that as Konate right now. You obviously then get Alisson coming out, but also you then get Gravenberch. So actually we playing some Alisson's strengths. I know he's a good ball playing goalkeeper, but he's not, that's not his biggest strength. So the ball goes between these guys and suddenly you've got McAllister and Szoboszlai dropping a little bit deeper. Szoboszlai comes out wide, like all that famous Manchester United move that we all remember. Kirkes is suddenly further down the line. McAllister is suddenly there as an option. Ball goes out to, say, Szoboszlai, and you've either got that bounce pass back and forth, and then Szoboszlai can play it back forward to Kirkes, which is what happened time after time after time last season. Or what we're actually looking at, and what I think we've added in here, is the possibility that this happens, or the possibility that that happens, and suddenly, different to what we've got with Robertson, you've got Kirkes as the winger, Wirtz is this facilitating number 10. Szoboszlai is another option, or Wirtz out wide, and then Szoboszlai on the inside there. Those two things, I mean, sure, we can do whatever we want there. How do I get rid of that pen mark now? Can't get rid of it, don't know how. Anyway, what you then end up with is a bunch of really great spaces for us all to run into. I'm going to return a couple of these guys back here. Florian Wirtz, McAllister's downfield. I might actually, yeah, that makes more sense. And suddenly what you have is two guys, and again, I'm going to reference it, similar to the Aston Villa game, running inside and the ball going from Wirtz, or even Szoboszlai, through, and then you've got either someone running in there or someone running in there. Salah played this like facilitating role in that game. Again, If you want to go super narrow and you want to put these guys in here and we're really in control, you've got 4 guys through the middle, leaving you with many, many runners. Again, back post space to be made. The ball then going from Kerkez in, Frimpong, like, again, I'm talking about the adaptability of this front line, and I've not even mentioned Salah. Rodrygo opens all of that up because of his adaptability. He essentially goes deep and you have these overlapping runs in multiple different places. It's exciting, essentially, when I think about it, because look at it. What a formation, what a team. Rodrygo is, he already plays for a superstar side. But does that make him a superstar? He's very good and he's facilitated a lot for this Barcelona side. I think in many ways he has kind of, not narrowed his own light, but sort of dimmed his own light a little bit in order to make other people even better. And he's shown he can play in a very complementary role. But at the same time, whenever I see him, he's not the guy to play off. He's not a guy that lets will go, knock it down to me, and then I'll run on. He's the guy that actually starts here, similar to him, similar to him, similar to him, similar to him. And actually what you're looking at then is these two becoming much more of like pinning players that kind of bring that back line back, and then people play off them and overlap them. That's quite exciting to think about, because I do think Szoboszlai and McAllister are very smart, tricky, round the corner, over the top. There's many different options in the balls that they can play, right? But again, is that the way that we unlock every side? Does it offer something that feels different to Florian Wirtz, something that's different to Salah? And essentially my answer is no. If I'm playing someone up front and I like the option of Rodrygo, it's because I probably don't have Wirtz or Szoboszlai or McAllister or Salah in the team. And, I'll probably finish this video and realize, I've missed actually that Rodrygo is fantastic in this area and you can play the ball off him. But I feel like his real strengths, maybe similar to what the actual model we're trying to build, which again, maybe plays into why we would get Rodrygo, is carrying the ball from this deep area down the field. There's lots of dribbling, there's lots of 1-2s, there's lots of bringing other people into play and ending up here. But then answer me this, why do we have Cody Gakpo in the side, if that's the case? Why? I mean, I think Chiesa goes to Italy, so I think that's a bit of a different thing. But why then will we have Luis Diaz? There are a number of different players, and I mean, we wouldn't have Luis Diaz if we had Rodrygo, but you get my point. And this isn't even exploring that actually within that, in our squad construction, there's going to have to be someone who takes the bench. And that would more than likely be someone like Cody Gakpo, right? So then Rodrygo is on the field, which is great. He's a multi-million-pound player. But Gakpo's great too. So is Szoboszlai. So is McAllister. It's not that I'm saying it's not a good option. It's just that I'm not sure it's option A. And I think that if we were to go for Rodrygo and we were maybe to go, maybe this is an illusion that actually, if we are to move on, Harvey Elliott, Chiesa, and within this summer Diaz, that actually it's not one new forward we get into this front line. I've not even really spoken about the big loss of Jota in that front line. I don't think that's respectful at this point. You're really looking at 2 players coming in. But the only people we've been linked to are for the kind of money that, frankly, you can't do. Like, you just can't go, suddenly we want 200 million pound players. Maybe if we think we leave it till later in the summer, Ekitike is more of a 60 million pound player. And maybe, I just don't think Isak ever makes it there this summer because he's not in that range of his contract, etc. But again, it alludes to different targets to the ones that we're talking about. And the system that Liverpool have, whilst fantastic, tell me, do you think that's a Champions League winning side with Florian Wirtz starting from out there, Kirk, but Rodrygo in the middle? Because you've got Szoboszlai and Gravenberch dropping that little bit deeper. That's still your midfield. You can throw a blanket over those guys sometimes, though very often the blanket has to stretch pretty quick. And then Rodrygo again coming deep. Again, there's these overlapping runs. It just doesn't make practical sense to me. And it seems exciting, and it's, I think that we're getting a little bit of a, hey, you did it to us, so we're going to do it to you type thing. But I don't think Madrid think of Rodrygo as a loss. I think they think of it as actually we have a bit of a guy we need to get off our hands here. He's not played that much in the Club World Cup. He's not been particularly happy. And to kind of finish the video, you know, there are plenty of people who doubt the ability or the kind of teamwork of Rodrygo because Madrid are talking about him being a disruptive figure in the dressing room. Now, I don't necessarily buy into that. I think a lot of the time when you find disruptive figures in the dressing room, it's, you know, especially for a guy who's been at Madrid for quite a long time, he probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But what we are looking at is a guy who would have to agitate, or he's agitated already to leave, and now he's been told you'll kind of surplus those requirements, despite him really suiting that Xabi Alonso profile. Although maybe he doesn't, you know, maybe there isn't that. What we are seeing though is, wow, we've forgotten that Florian Wirtz is in this team already. Wow, you're forgetting that we have a player of the season on the other wing, and you know maybe that affects him negatively at some point. We've not even spoken about the width that someone like Rodrygo brings players in with. There's a real reason that Madrid love the players like Rodrygo, and it's because they bring other players into play. But again, look at the guys that we have. 1, 2. If I move these guys further down, that's an attacking front line. If I move them deeper, they act as 2 number 10s. If I bring these guys inside and those guys outside, which is a perfectly feasible thing, I think that's more of a Kirkes thing than a Frimpong thing, which is why Salah probably goes more inside and Frimpong probably goes over there, we're still looking at pretty prolific front line there and many, many overloads. It's an exciting prospect, but it's one that alludes to the fact that it's probably not Rodrygo that's coming in this summer. And if it is, that's not the final signing, guys. I think Liverpool are keeping powder dry, and I think we're waiting for teams to kind of get into certain positions. Like I've said, sell Nunez, sell Diaz. But if we're moving on a number of personnel this summer, and you know, you do kind of get that feeling the more you look into it, we're really looking at a very big shift in this side. And in another video, I'm about to cover this. That's not long to, or not completely, but to very fundamentally change that front line and a lot of those relationships. There are, even just in, if I just show you, let me zoom out, let me zoom, this part of the pitch, 1, 2, 3, 4 different players in there that haven't played a game for Liverpool. Rodrygo because he hasn't played for Liverpool, but the other ones because they've not had that opportunity yet. Now, come Sunday, maybe they've had that opportunity, but I don't think Sunday is going to be the time to judge that. We're less than a month away from the Club World Cup, from the Community Shield against Crystal Palace, and we are just over a month until the first game of the season against Bournemouth. And this is just a conversation around our starting 11. We haven't even started, by the way, on go full field. Bradley, Robertson, Gakpo, Jones, Chiesa, Endo, Gomez, Doak, Nyoni, Morton, Bajcetic. Now I know some of these guys, you know, we can almost put these guys into 2 camps. Bajcetic, loan. Morton, sell or loan. Nyoni, stay. Doak, sell or loan. Somewhere between the two, right? Alison, you can come out. Diaz, go. Bradley, stay. Robertson, stay. Gakpo, stay. Jones, stay. Chiesa, middle. Endo, stay. He's already said he will. Gomez, stay. Jota, forever in our hearts. It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's not it's kind of champagne problems in a sense. But the concern for me is that last season we played without a striker. We played without a recognised number 9 for long periods that season. And it felt in the end like it took an impact on the side. Do we really want to play another season where Salah is the person we're relying on? I know Florian Wirtz is going to bring more goals, though again, you know, if we're removing Diaz from the side, we're removing 13 of those goals in the league and we're asking him to insert that, plus some more if we're removing Darwin Nunez, not that he scored all that many goals. But it's not about volume, it's about quality. And if Liverpool become that quality side, where it's not about, you know, 6-7-0, Wirtz is probably doing that over the sheer volume of goals. Now, I don't think don't just judge volume. And that's probably why I'm 50-50 on what the Rodrygo role would be. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. There's plenty more of this stuff to come. There's plenty more areas where we're going to talk about impact. I've got a whole video coming out on Flying Wirtz. I've got a whole video coming out about the relationships between all these players and what we do next. What is squad depth to this side? And I look forward to seeing you guys on this channel. If you've not already hit subscribe, please do hit it. And I appreciate you hitting the Discord down there, and of course the Patreon as well. And of course, there is, I mean it, a super chat down there. I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Much love.